Hello everyone and welcome to another Hallelujah Season review. I am really on a kick about these games right now that are creating stories about these characters and the variation that you can get from them. And this one that I'm going to review in this video is called Call to Adventure, and it is published by Brotherwise Games for 1 to 4 players. And it is a fantastic game where you're set up with a very unique origins kind of story with one single card, but you're set up with an origin, a motivation, and a destiny. And from these 3 beginning cards, you're going to be gaining certain traits and or challenges that you'll come across, and you'll have to choose what you're going to do, and then you're going to be casting or throwing these runes around, and that's kind of one of the big unique elements to this game. Is you don't have dice, you have runes, which is basically an interesting, you have kind of these acrylic runes, as they call them. But basically, they're kind of like coins, right? Where they have a front and a back, if you will. And when you're casting those, you're basically, 50% chance of one of the options of these sides. And you acquire cards and you're able to either increase the number of runes that you're going to be able to throw each round when you attempt a certain challenge. If you're adventurous, if you have a certain trait of any of those things, then you're able to, toss more runes into the mix and have more of a chance at success in obtaining other cards and being successful at the challenges that you undertake. And those beginning cards and other cards as you collect throughout the game are going to kind of, especially that Destiny card, is going to kind of shape and help you choose what path you're going to go down. And are you going to be are you going to be more towards the light, and your origin or your motivation may push you one way or the other. And it's very, very fun to go through the game like this. With this idea that you're kind of have this character in this role that you're playing, and the game is set up such that thematically it works with the challenges and the cards that you're going to, the challenges you want to undertake. It's going to kind of help you have a goal of how you're going to manipulate the cards or what you're going to want to try to get as you progress through this game. And there's a solo mode as well, where you can basically, you're going through and you're going to be facing this villain at the end, or this other card that you're trying to take over at the end. And depending on the things you choose and the cards that you take, you're going to get, you're going to acquire some experience that allows you to hopefully be more successful. Or you're going to reach into the dark runes to help increase your chances of success. So let's go ahead and show you more of what's in the game and some of my thoughts of Call to Adventure. I'm also in this video going to be talking just a little bit about the this expansion to Call to Adventure, The Name of the Wind, from the very famous book series, which I actually haven't read yet. It's on my list. So this is be kind of a unique perspective. My perspective is one who has not read the books, but really about the gameplay. And Brotherwise actually just came out with the Stormlight Archive series version. It's a standalone Call to Adventure game, and I'm very excited about that one. I'm actually reading that series right now, and so very, very excited about that. Something that's really great across the base game and the expansion, and I've seen the artwork, for the Stormlight Archive version as well, and the artwork across all these games is just fantastic. Really, really great stuff. We'll show you some of that. But the gameplay actually is pretty simple. We'll kind of give you some of the feel of that and talk about that. So let's get closer to the components here and tell you my thoughts. All right, so here we are looking at Call to Adventure. This game is chock full of lots of good stuff. We have player boards, 4 player boards included in the game, and they act as a tableau of sorts to keep your cards, as well as keep track of where you are on the corruption track here, and a reminder of what the different rune symbols mean. So very handy and very nice. It's like a thin cardboard, but very, very nice quality for just the player mat. So really, really good there. Like I mentioned, the artwork on these cards is just amazing. Really, really cool artwork in this game. Now I threw out some cards here. I just realized I have the allies still shuffled in here, which is something you'll want to probably add into the game a little bit later. Let me just pull out some other options here as well. But I can kind of show you what happens with these allies too. So we'll just set one over there. But there we go. So in this game, you're going to, there's actually a lot of these different cards. So there's a set of origin cards that everyone will get one of these. And they basically give you a little bit of a start to the game and a start to your character. You know, are you going to be a student, a merchant, a squire? Are you going to be a sailor or a farmer? And so each person's going to randomly get one of these cards. You could also do kind of like a draft technique where you, give a bunch of these cards out and you choose one of those. I think that's kind of a nice variant there. And then everyone's also going to choose or get a card from the motivation deck here. And again, you can see there's all sorts in here. So there's a lot of replayability and variation to the game, which is really, really cool. And so some cool things in there. And then for the third card here, you're going to also get another card here, Destiny card. Basically, this one's going to be face down in your tableau because it is going to give you basically end of game scoring objectives that you're trying to do as you go through this. Okay, so for this setup here, I am a hunter background. So during a challenge, as we talk about those, if at least one of your runes shows a result, and I'm not going to remember what all of these symbols mean, but they are related to the stats of a hero. The constitution, strength, dexterity, wisdom, all of those things. So they're related to these. So if it shows one of those results, I'm going to gain an experience little token, which is pretty cool. They're little plastic red translucent pieces. Pretty cool. Got a bunch of those over there. So I'm a hunter. I'm going to start with basically these guys here. They're going to help me acquire some other things here. The Seeker of Truth. So I'm a hunter seeking truth. Once per turn, you may spend an experience to gain plus one of these until end of turn. So as you can see here, this is actually a pretty cool combo here. If one of the runes is, if I am able to get these runes thrown out there and I get those, I'm going to be able to get the experience, and then I can once per turn use an experience to gain one of those to help out. So that's pretty cool. And my secret destiny here is one with nature. So this works out, I think, fairly well. Very cool. At the end of the game, I'm going to gain 5 of these triumph points if you have basically these 3 that's set there, and 1 for each of these story icons. So I'll be looking for those as they come out. Actually, look at this. In this very first one, there's a story icon there. So it would be, this would give me 1 extra point if I'm able to get that card. Okay, so on your turn, it's fairly simple and straightforward, right? I'm either going to gain traits if I'm able to from this row, or I'm going to be faced with some sort of challenge, right? So let's talk about the traits here. So this trait card here, Adventurous, is one that I would really love to add to this. It says you may only gain this if you have this symbol or spend an experience, okay? So if I had an experience, I could go ahead and spend that and add it to this the first story. So everyone is working to they'll get 3 cards under your first origin card. We're going to get 3 cards, and you can stack them here. Like so. So if I'm able to get that, then this would refill here, and it would go on to the next person. Very simple, right? Some of them you may have to spend experience, or if you simply have that symbol. So like at the beginning, right, I didn't have that symbol. So I would have needed to spend an experience in order to obtain this. Okay. Now you get to challenges, right? And basically, there's going to be some different options here with the challenges. I can either excel in your studies or learn deep lessons. And depending on what I choose, I will get rewards differently, right? So if I excel in studies, I'm going to have this symbol and this story symbol. Learn deep lessons, I'm going to be able to draw one of these cards from this deck, which can, as I play them, get points for them, and they can be very helpful, or different runes. And so then I look at this and say, okay, what do I need to be successful? I need to be able to get a 4, okay? 4 or more on here to be successful and acquire this card. I look at the different paths, and then this shows me if I have these symbols, I'm going to be able to add one of those runes. So I have one of those for each of those. I don't have this symbol. So I would be able to take the 3 runes, the 3 core runes. You're always usually going to be tossing these. And then I could go ahead and grab one of these runes as well to help. And basically, I'm trying to get 4 or more. I'm going to toss these. And I will say that I thought it was very helpful in the rule book that since this is a very kind of unique concept, you don't really see, you see mostly dice and different things like that. It shows you some probabilities in here. And it's helpful, I think, especially for new players to the game, to kind of grasp, if I'm rolling if I'm tossing, these runes up, just a core 3, I have a chance of a max of 3. So, this won't even be successful, this 4, just with the 3, right? Now, if I have an ability rune, I could get a max of 5, average of 3. To be more successful, maybe I need to get one of these dark runes. And there's different ways that you can get those in there. Spending experience can be one of those ways. And so basically, it reminds you here on the bottom of your board, any slash in any color is 1 success. If you're able to, so this like skill rune here, if I'm able to get one of those, it's going to give me 2 successes If I get this, I'm going to be able to draw a hero card. I can maybe gain an experience, draw an anti-hero card. Those are the dark cards. And the dark runes, I get success, draw a hero or anti-hero card, some different things. So it's good. Have this here, remind everyone what they do there. Also, I'm just going to show you. So here's another look at these. Basically, you're going to add 2 or 1 to wisdom. And then, oh, I grabbed the wrong one. So when you gain the 3rd icon in an ability, then and only then do you gain use of this special rune marked with 3 dots, this one here. So it basically gives you that 2 or a bonus thing. So I grabbed the wrong one there. So I want one of these, okay? So that's basically 1 success, 2 successes. So let's say if I tried that, basically what you do is you toss these. Ooh, so that's not great, right? So that was only 2 successes, and I'm able to draw a hero or anti-hero card, depending on where I am on this corruption track. So right now I'd be able to draw either from, you know, this deck or the anti-hero deck, the hero deck or the anti-hero deck. And the cards, you know, Dazzling Wit, play this before an attempt. I get to add an extra one of those runes or one of those to my attempt. And I'm going to get a point at the end of the game if I play that as I go on. So those cards are good. If you fail attempts, you're going to get experience. Like I said, you can use experience tokens. And you are going to start with some of the experience tokens as well. But yeah, that's basically the game is you're choosing the different cards, trying to acquire the different symbols that will best help and prepare you for success there. And up to 3 times per turn if you, before you attempt a challenge, so not after. You can't do this and say, oh, shoot, I should have spent something. You have to choose beforehand. You can spend an experience to add a dark rune. And again, that's up to 3 times. And the dark runes are interesting because, again, they increase your likelihood of getting successes. And so it's a 1 success or a 2 success. So they help significantly. But when you have these little moon symbols come up, they move you down the corruption track here by 1, okay? And as you can see here, you know, if you're at the end of the game, you may be able to get some points if you're here, but if you go too far down, you're actually going to be losing points. So you kind of have to watch that. It's kind of an interesting thing. And you lose your ability once you're down here to play the hero cards. You can actually lose triumph points, and you may no longer actually spend experience to do cast the dark runes. But there's some things to kind of manipulate and change those. But yeah, that's kind of the interesting choices that you have there. You know, you may have, you know, your motivation and or your destiny. Cards might actually say, hey, I want to be, you know, up here and want to acquire these triumph points, or I may want to be more corrupt and I don't want as many of these triumph points. I want these tragedy points or something like that. Okay. And so as players go along, as soon as someone has basically, and you may have some above or below, right, depending on what you choose to challenge. And then as things go along and people have moved on, as soon as someone has 3 cards acquired under this first one, they're going to bring out these story 2 parts. Oh, I put all the adversaries together. That's right. So you can play kind of the base game. There's also a bunch of adversaries that get shuffled into the 2 and 3 deck. So I had those all separate. And there's allies. So there's a way that you can play kind of the base game, and then you expand by adding these allies into the deck, which basically get added as they come out to different challenges. And it makes the challenge harder, but then when you acquire it, it gives you some bonuses and some abilities, which is cool. Let's see. Where'd they go? You're on the end, huh? The adversaries, kind of a similar thing, but instead of like a challenge with some choices, it's just one thing. You need to take this person out, right? And as you take over and defeat the adversaries, you're going to get victory points, certain symbols, those sort of things. But then as soon as someone has gained cards, 3 cards for this second one, then they're able to start, they'll reveal these cards from the third one. And again, there's going to be some adversaries and different things that could be shuffled into there. And again, different challenges. Are you going to slay the Archmage or become the Archmage? Are you going to be a champion of light or a servant of darkness? So some really, really cool stuff as you go through there, making your choices, developing that character through story, and trying to match those runes up to make it easier for you to be successful as you move forward with the challenges, and trying to, of course, meet these different kind of objectives from your Destiny card. Okay, so that's Call to Adventure in a nutshell. There's all sorts of cool cards in here, and again, there's just so many different cards and a lot of variation. From, initial setups to what cards you'll see coming out of the decks here, to the hero and anti-hero cards. And then not only that, you had, as I mentioned before, these adversaries, these allies you can shuffle in, give more variation to the game. And then there's actually also some cards in here for a solo mode, that allows you to go up against all these different adversaries as kind of a end game thing. You're working through your entire story, and then you got to take out the adversary. And you can also play that same type of mode in a co-op, either 2, 3, or 4-player co-op mode as well. Okay. So yeah, this is Call to Adventure by Brotherwise Games, and really, really fun. 1 to 4 players, this says, 30 to 60 minutes, and it really kind of depends on, how much people want to get into kind of that storytelling and reading through and making up that story, and how long people make choices. But it can be a fairly quick, easygoing game, and one that you could easily just kind of get into another one. So Call to Adventure, this is the base game. All of these components are the base game. And there's a lot here. Like I said, replayability is huge in this game with all these different cards. And then it has all these runes that are, for everyone. You just keep them in here. You can pull them out, but basically when they're needed, you pull out what you need, and you add those to your pool of what you're tossing, and get back into that. Has a score pad here. You'll add up your triumph, tragedy points, any experience points you didn't use, points from playing hero and anti-hero cards, and story icon scoring you get for that as well. So very, very cool game. And I mentioned I was going to talk about the expansion, Call to Adventure, The Name of the Wind. And like I said, I really want to read this book. It's been on my list, but I hear that the other book that's supposed to come out has not come out for a long time. So maybe I'll just wait until it comes out and then read it. But in this one, there is a little bit of preparation for this. To basically provide fresh play and to incorporate the expansion, they ask you to set aside all these certain cards from the base game so that you could then incorporate in all the new cards from this expansion and have it work the best way that it can. The biggest thing in this expansion is naming. And again, not reading the book, but it seems like a really, really cool concept. The idea that basically you get to know something so well that you're able to control it. And this naming thing is the biggest thing from this expansion, besides adding, a bunch of cards here to it. Basically, if you're trying to collect these different symbols on the cards that allow you to name one of these elements. And so every time you, once per turn, if you fail a challenge, you can attempt a name. And once you are able to do this, you're actually able to basically, if you name fire, any cards that have that symbol on it, instead of tossing runes and having that kind of unknown, basically it shows that you've mastered that and that you don't actually have to cast runes. You can just acquire that card. So it's kind of an interesting, another interesting mechanic to the game to add this in there because it gives another kind of element of, okay, you failed the challenge, which really stinks because you don't get the card for that turn, but you know what? You actually get to try to attempt a naming, and these can be very, very powerful throughout the game there. So like I said, there's a bunch of cool new cards in here with great artwork. We have, the story 1, 2, and 3 cards, their ads, the other cards in here as well. We have new origin, new motivation, and destiny cards in here. There's new adversary cards as well, and new anti-hero and hero cards. The expansion also comes with these tokens that match up with the elements to keep track of where you're at with how many of those that you have in acquired. And so really, really cool addition there with the expansion of the naming. Very cool. And just adding yet more cards to the variability, which is really, really cool. And that is Call to Adventure by Brotherwise Games. And like I said, the Stormlight Archive standalone version of Call to Adventure had pre-orders a while back. I believe those are actually getting to people now already. So excited to try that one out as well, because really like just the storytelling, the characters from that series of Brandon Sanderson. So excited to get into that. If you enjoy, that storytelling aspect and it's not quite, but kind of a little bit like a choose your own adventure type game and story that you're working through. But then you're looking at your chances here. You're trying to get certain runes, rune symbols to be more successful. And thematically, I think it works really, really well that way. Other than that, those are some of my thoughts on Call to Adventure. Really, really great game, enjoyable time with that, and I think it has a very solid solo play to it. It has a very kind of puzzle type nature as you're trying to figure out the best kind of path with the cards given to you at the time, and trying to get to that end goal. So Call to Adventure, a great game for 1 to 4 players, and that is how Lou sees it.